Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with a question. What is a vision, not a fleeting desire, not a vague ambition whispered late at night when the world is quiet? No. A vision is a voluntary confrontation with the unknown, a radical assertion that you are willing to shape the chaos of life into something meaningful. A vision is not a shallow wish, nor is it a passive dream that visits you in moments of quiet desperation. Vision is an active, structured commitment to a possible future that you willingly place yourself in service to. It is voluntary suffering in pursuit of meaningful transformation. This is not just poetic metaphor, it is a psychological and existential necessity. Most people confuse vision with fantasy. A fantasy is something you enjoy imagining but are unwilling to suffer for. A vision, in contrast, is the thing you suffer for. It is the unshakable image of a future that demands you become more than you are now. That's why vision is a moral endeavor, not just a practical one. It implies responsibility, it implies sacrifice, it implies becoming. To have a vision means to form a relationship with the unknown, what the ancient stories call chaos, and voluntarily agree to shape it. You're not just reacting to life anymore. You're reaching into what's possible and pulling out something structured, ordered, and meaningful. That act alone elevates you above the level of mere survival. It dignifies you. You're no longer a creature responding to circumstance. You're a being creating the circumstance. This is why people without a vision fall into despair or nihilism. They drift. They entertain themselves to avoid the pain of directionlessness. Their energy is diffused across distractions because they lack a single point to orient toward. A person with no vision becomes a slave to the present moment, constantly escaping discomfort and avoiding responsibility. But a vision, by contrast, centralizes you. It creates psychological coherence. It says, this is the kind of person I need to become. This is the future that justifies the effort. This is the direction I will go, even if it costs me. And it will cost you. Every vision exacts a price, but the reward is your own transformation. There's a strange paradox here. When you truly focus on your vision, your life becomes both harder and more meaningful. You become deeply aware of your inadequacies. The gap between who you are and who you need to become becomes painfully clear. That pain is real, but it's also the beginning of growth. Pain, when interpreted properly, is information. It tells you where the work needs to be done. Vision creates a hierarchy of value. It teaches you what to prioritize. Once you know where you're going, not everything is equally important anymore. You stop wasting time. You stop associating with people who drag you down. You stop saying yes to things that dilute your energy. You become sharper, more focused, more dangerous in the best possible sense of the word. And here's something crucial. The clarity of your vision determines the quality of your life. A vague goal leads to vague action, which leads to vague results. But a precise, well-articulated vision makes sacrifice bearable, even invigorating. You stop asking, why am I doing this? Because the answer is embedded in the structure of your goal. It's not enough to want something. You have to specify it, write it down, describe it in detail. Who will you be in 3 years? What kind of character must you embody? What skills must you develop? What vices must you eliminate? Vision begins in articulation, in naming the possibility. That's how human beings make the invisible visible. In the end, vision is not about dreaming. It's about building. It is the map you create to navigate a chaotic world. Without it, you're lost. With it, even your suffering becomes a stepping stone. So clarify your vision. Name your future, and step willingly into the responsibility it demands. A life without aim is a tragedy in slow motion. You might survive, even function, but you won't thrive. You'll drift through days, hoping something changes, waiting for clarity to appear like a lightning bolt. But clarity never arrives without effort, and effort must be directed. That's why aim is essential. It is not a luxury. It is a psychological and moral necessity. To aim is to define what you are moving toward. It is to voluntarily organize your energy in the service of something meaningful. This is not optional. If you don't aim at something, you're guaranteed to miss everything. It's a law of existence. No direction equals no progress. Imagine trying to hit a target while blindfolded, spinning, and holding your breath. That's what life becomes without aim, chaotic, exhausting, and meaningless. Now here's the deeper truth: your aim shapes your perception. What you aim at determines what you see. This is not metaphorical, it's neurological. The brain filters out 99% of all sensory information. It only shows you what it deems relevant. If you don't have a goal, your brain doesn't know what to prioritize. So everything feels overwhelming, but when you have a goal, suddenly, the world reorganizes itself, opportunities appear, patterns emerge, your aim teaches you what to notice. This is the foundation of progress. You move in the direction you look. If you aim low, you act low. If you aim high, you organize your life around higher principles. That's why you must choose your aim carefully. Don't just chase pleasure. Pleasure is fleeting. Aim at growth. Aim at mastery. Aim at responsibility. These aims endure when pleasure fails. Aim also gives structure to suffering. Life by nature is hard. Challenges, losses, uncertainty. These things are guaranteed. But without an aim, suffering is unbearable. It feels pointless, like a burden with no reward. But with an aim, suffering becomes purposeful. You're not just hurting. You're training. You're becoming someone capable of achieving something worthwhile. Now, let's address a common obstacle: the fear of choosing the wrong aim. Many people are paralyzed because they want the perfect target before they begin. But perfection is the enemy of progress. It's better to aim at something and adjust than to sit idle waiting for certainty. Your first goal doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be specific. Action refines vision. As you move, you learn. As you fail, you grow. A bad aim corrected through experience is far better than no aim at all. So ask yourself, what is worthy of my time, energy, and sacrifice? Not just what you want, but what would be worth struggling for? What aim, if achieved, would make you proud of who you became in the process? Start there, write it down, speak it out loud, declare it. You must know where you're going, or you'll fall into every trap along the way. Remember, if you aim at nothing, your life will become nothing. Not because you're evil or lazy, but because nature abhors a vacuum. If you don't choose your aim, something else will. Social pressure, addiction, fear, comfort, these things will take over your life by default. So aim sharply, deliberately, with the full force of your being. Your future depends on it. Every vision you pursue exists between two fundamental forces, order and chaos. These are not just abstract concepts. They are the psychological realities you navigate every single day. Order is the known. It's where things are predictable, structured, and safe. Chaos is the unknown. It's where there's danger, unpredictability, and potential. And here's the paradox. Your dream lies in the place where order and chaos meet. We crave order because it gives us stability. Without it, we can't function. Habits, routines, rules, all these things protect us from entropy. But order, left unchallenged, leads to stagnation. You stop growing. You become rigid. You might be safe, but you're no longer alive. Chaos, on the other hand, terrifies us. It's filled with uncertainty. It threatens your current identity. It forces you to confront your weaknesses. But within chaos lies transformation. Every meaningful dream requires you to venture into chaos voluntarily. That's the hero's journey. The movement from the comfort of order into the danger of chaos and back again, stronger than before. When you decide to pursue a vision, you are essentially saying, I will leave the known, I will face the dragon, I will transform what is terrifying into something useful. That is the deepest act of courage a person can commit to, not because it guarantees success, but because it guarantees growth. Now here's the key. Too much chaos will break you. Too much order will imprison you. You must learn to walk the line between the two. That's where life is lived most fully. That's where creativity, courage, and strength emerge. So don't seek comfort. Seek competence. Don't cling to the familiar. Learn how to navigate the unknown. That's what vision does. It compels you to take a step beyond your current limitations. You don't need to leap, but you do need to step. And every step you take into the unknown makes you more capable, more responsible, and more resilient. It is in this dance between order and chaos that your potential is realized. At the heart of every meaningful life lies a continuous balancing act between order and chaos. These are not just abstract philosophical terms, they are the fundamental conditions of human existence. Order represents the known. It is structure, routine, tradition, predictability, and safety. It's everything you can control: your daily habits, your relationships, your skills, and your environment. It gives you stability. It provides the ground beneath your feet and the walls around your house. Without order, life descends into confusion, but too much order becomes tyranny. A life fully dominated by the known becomes stagnant, rigid, and lifeless. You stop growing, you become a prisoner of your comfort zone. In extreme cases, entire systems built only on order devolve into oppression. You see this in history, politics, and even in personal relationships that become emotionally suffocating. On the other hand, chaos represents the unknown. It is uncertainty, possibility, danger, and transformation. It's what lies beyond your current competence. Every challenge you've never faced, every dream you haven't dared pursue, and every truth you're afraid to confront. Chaos is the territory where growth happens, but it's also where risk and failure live. A life of pure chaos is overwhelming. Without any structure, you are constantly anxious, lost, and disoriented. You can't make plans or trust patterns. You're emotionally reactive, driven by fear or novelty, but unable to build anything lasting. While chaos offers potential, it also threatens to destroy if you're not anchored. So here is the eternal task: to voluntarily place yourself at the edge between order and chaos. That edge where your current knowledge meets what you don't yet understand is the zone of optimal development. It's where courage is demanded, where transformation is possible, and where the future is negotiated. When you focus on your dream or vision, what you are really doing is choosing to stand at that edge. You are stepping out of what you can already do into what you must learn to do. You are risking failure in order to grow. That's not reckless, that's responsibility. Let's make this more concrete. Imagine you want to become a public speaker, but you're terrified of speaking in front of others. Staying in order means avoiding speaking opportunities, perhaps even convincing yourself that it's not important. That feels safe, but it also means stagnation. Stepping into chaos means signing up for that first speaking event, knowing full well you'll be nervous, awkward, and likely to make mistakes. But that chaos, that fear, is the gateway to transformation. Every hero story follows this structure. The protagonist begins in a place of order, receives a call to adventure, the invitation into chaos, and only becomes a hero through confrontation with the unknown. Why? Because transformation cannot happen in safety. You must leave the known to become someone new. In psychological development, this is mirrored in how we grow as children, students, professionals, and parents. Each stage begins with struggle, uncertainty, and disorientation, but each time we step voluntarily into that chaos, we emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable. That's how the soul matures. Your vision, if it's truly meaningful, will require you to engage with chaos. You'll face doubt, fear, criticism, failure, and inner resistance. But that's not a reason to avoid it. That's a sign you're moving in the right direction. Do not aim to eliminate chaos. Aim to develop yourself enough to handle it. Build a foundation of order strong enough to allow you to take risk. Use routine, discipline, and structure not to hide from chaos, but to prepare yourself to enter it with courage. In the end, the most meaningful life is lived on the line between what you know and what you don't, between security and challenge, comfort and growth. That is where your vision becomes reality. If vision gives your life direction, then discipline is the vehicle that carries you there. Without discipline, your dream remains a vague idea, floating in your imagination, inspiring perhaps, but ultimately powerless. Discipline is what translates vision into reality. It is the structure that allows potential to become actual. We often misunderstand discipline. Many people associate it with restriction, punishment, or even emotional coldness. But discipline, properly understood, is freedom through structure. It is the act of imposing order on chaos, not because you want to suffer, but because you want to succeed. It is the daily, deliberate choice to prioritize what matters over what is comfortable. A person with discipline does not rely on motivation. Motivation is emotional, unreliable, and often absent when you need it most. Discipline, by contrast, is a principle, a commitment you keep with yourself regardless of how you feel. Discipline says, I will do what I must even when I don't want to because I have decided that my vision is worth it. And this decision is not small, it is existential. Discipline is what builds character. Every time you wake up early, stick to your plan, resist a temptation, or complete a task with excellence, you reinforce a new identity, the identity of someone who is becoming capable of achieving their dream. Let's break it down more practically. If your dream is to become physically healthy, discipline shows up in your diet, exercise routine, sleep habits, and consistency, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. If your dream is to become financially independent, discipline is reflected in your budgeting, your avoidance of impulsive spending, your saving, investing, and long-term thinking. If your dream is creative writing, building, speaking, leading, discipline is the invisible scaffolding behind every masterpiece. Behind every great achievement is 100 days of quiet, unseen effort. But discipline isn't just about action. It's about attention. In a world of constant distraction, discipline is the ability to say no to noise, to shut out the meaningless in favor of the meaningful. Every time you choose to focus, to say no to social media, to silence the unnecessary, you sharpen your mind. You increase your capacity to do deep, transformative work. And here's an uncomfortable truth: discipline hurts. Especially at first, it requires discomfort, it exposes weakness, it disrupts the pleasure-seeking patterns you've built over time, but this pain is not destructive. It is refining, it is the cost of change. And there is no greatness without pain. The absence of discipline leads not to happiness, but to regret. An undisciplined life may feel free in the short term, but it produces chaos over time. Goals are missed. Opportunities fade, health deteriorates, relationships break down. The momentary pleasure you gain by avoiding structure becomes a long-term prison. Discipline, on the other hand, produces compounding returns. Every small act of effort repeated over time builds momentum. At first it feels like nothing, but slowly, imperceptibly, you begin to transform. You look back after a few months or years and realize you've become someone different. Someone stronger, more capable, more focused, more respected. This is the paradox. Discipline leads to identity. The person you admire, the person you wish to be, is not born by accident. That person is built hour by hour, habit by habit, decision by decision. So if your dream is genuine, prove it, not with words, not with feelings, but with daily discipline. Wake up earlier, eliminate distractions, follow a routine, track your progress, train your mind to obey your vision, not your emotions. In the end, it is not talent, luck, or inspiration that defines success. It is discipline. Without it, your dream dies in the realm of possibility. With it, your dream becomes inevitable. To pursue a dream, truly and seriously, is to embrace the ancient principle of sacrifice, not merely as a metaphor, but as a lived reality. Every great vision demands that you give up something of value in the present in order to build something greater in the future. Sacrifice is the bridge between who you are now and who you could become. This truth is embedded in every culture, every mythology, every enduring spiritual system. The idea is simple but profound. If you want the future to be better than the present, then something must be offered now. You must let go of something old, comfortable, or pleasurable so that something meaningful, ordered, and beautiful can take its place. This exchange is not optional. It is the price of progress. You cannot have both comfort and transformation. You cannot cling to your distractions, your indulgences, your excuses, and expect your dreams to come true. The laws of reality do not work that way. Every meaningful outcome has a cost, and sacrifice is how you pay it. Think of time. If your dream is to build a career, a body, a relationship, a movement, then hours of your life must be given to it. Those hours could be spent on entertainment, comfort, or social validation, but you trade them for focus, skill, building, and mastery. You sacrifice the fleeting for the lasting. Think of energy. You only have so much emotional and physical energy each day. If you spread it across a dozen shallow interests or waste it on negative thinking, resentment, or passive consumption, you rob your dream of the fuel it needs. Sacrifice is the act of gathering your energy and offering it to the highest purpose you can envision. Think of people. There may be relationships in your life, comfortable, familiar, even emotionally addictive, that no longer serve your goal. Some of them may actively sabotage your growth. The decision to let go of those relationships is painful. But sacrifice is not the avoidance of pain. It is the willing acceptance of the right kind of pain for the right kind of future. And think of identity. Perhaps the most difficult sacrifice is this: the sacrifice of your current self. You must let go of your old story, your limitations, your justifications, your victimhood. You must admit that the person you are now is not yet fully equipped to carry your dream. That admission is humbling. But it is the beginning of wisdom. Sacrifice who you are for who you could become. Yet this principle is often resisted. Why? Because we live in a culture of instant gratification. We are constantly sold the idea that we can have it all, now, without effort, without delay, without giving anything up. But this is a lie, and deep down everyone knows it. Nothing of lasting value comes without cost. Sacrifice demands maturity. It demands long-term thinking. It asks you to feel the discomfort of delay, the ache of discipline, the sting of exclusion, and still choose it. But here's the secret. The moment you sacrifice for your dream, you dignify your life. You become a participant in the shaping of reality. You stop being a consumer of the world and start becoming a co-creator. Sacrifice is not loss. It is investment. You are not giving something up for nothing. You are trading it for something greater. When you do it with clarity and purpose, it strengthens you. It deepens your commitment. It purifies your motives. It separates the real from the shallow. So ask yourself, what does my vision require me to sacrifice? Is it time, pleasure, approval, an old way of being? Then offer it, and do it willingly. Because in the end, your dream is not just what you want. It is what you are willing to suffer for. And that's what makes it worth achieving. At some point, sooner or later, life will break your heart. This is not a possibility, it is a certainty. You will lose people, you will fail, you will suffer injustice, betrayal, illness, loss, and perhaps even the crushing weight of meaninglessness. No one escapes this truth, and so the real question becomes, what will you stand on when the tragedy comes? The answer is resilience, but not the shallow kind, not the hollow mantra of just stay strong, or keep your head up. Real resilience is not denial. It is not pretending things are fine. Resilience is the ability to face the full weight of tragedy without being destroyed by it. It is the strength to remain rooted in your values, anchored in your vision, and connected to your purpose when everything else is falling apart. And where does this strength come from? It comes from your dream, but only if that dream is meaningful enough. You don't build resilience by avoiding suffering. You build it by willingly facing it, armed with a purpose strong enough to justify the fight. Without vision, suffering crushes you. With vision, suffering becomes a forge. There is an ancient truth hidden in the stories of every hero. It is in the darkest moments, in the belly of the beast, in the cave of despair, that character is formed. It's not your comfort that reveals who you are. It's your struggle, and the dream you pursue must be strong enough to carry you through that struggle. When you focus on your vision, you give your suffering direction. Pain without meaning breeds bitterness. Pain with meaning breeds growth. The person who says, I will endure this because my dream matters more than my comfort, is someone who cannot be defeated, not permanently. They may fall, but they will rise, because their suffering is not wasted, it is invested. Tragedy then becomes a test not of your luck, but of your alignment. a test of how deeply you have rooted yourself in responsibility, discipline, and sacrifice. If your dream is merely a shallow desire for status, fame, or approval, then when hardship comes, you will abandon it. But if your dream is tied to the very core of your being, if it is your contribution, your legacy, your mission, then no tragedy can erase it. You may bend, but you will not break. This is why building resilience is not something you do in the crisis. It is something you do before the crisis. It is the daily discipline of pursuing something meaningful, training your mind and body, building character, telling the truth, and preparing for difficulty. You are, in essence, preparing for the storm. Not because you are afraid, but because you know it will come, and you choose to be ready, and when that storm does come, your vision will be tested. That test may feel cruel, even senseless, but often, it is in the darkest moments that the dream becomes clearest. Stripped of distractions, illusions, and comfort, you will be left with what truly matters, and in that space, your soul has the chance to rise. So do not build a life on comfort. Build it on purpose. Build it on something that can survive grief, betrayal, loss, and failure. Build it on something eternal, because in the end, tragedy is inevitable, but destruction is not. You can suffer without being shattered. You can fall without staying down. You can hurt deeply and still choose to rise. And that, more than anything else, is what your dream is for, not just to give you something to live for, but something to live through.